We're live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to SF Zine Fest 2021. We are starting a few minutes late with this very first event because of technical difficulties, but hopefully this time will go smoothly. So thanks for being patient and sitting tight and being here with us. So this is our 20th anniversary of SF Zine Fest, and we are calling it Cyberfest Rebooted because last year was the first year that we were totally virtual. This year we are mostly virtual and super excited to share the first 9 exhibitors, and they can tell you about their zines. So this is how the order of events will go. We'll do a quick intro, house rules and expectations, an icebreaker, artists will present their work, and then we'll close out the day. So a little bit about San Francisco Zine Fest. We were founded in 2001, hence the 20th anniversary. And we really focus on the Bay Area and promoting zinesters who are making their work in the Bay Area, but we also have benefited from this virtual format by being able to welcome people from all over the world. Typically, we hold this as a one-day event in Golden Gate Park with up to 5,000 attendees, but last year we went all virtual, did Zine Fest for 3 weeks, and this year we're being a little more reasonable with just 9 days of events. So hopefully you'll find a lot to come back for over the next 8.5 days. We expect all of our volunteers and our exhibitors to agree to the Safer Spaces policy. You can read it here. You can also read it on our website. It's focusing on how we're committed to providing a harassment-free experience for everyone, regardless of gender, gender identity and expression, sexual orientation, disability, physical appearance, body size, race, or religion. So the zine community is very supportive of each other typically, and we just ask that people keep these values in mind when they're participating in any of our events. And here's some more details about the Safer Spaces policy and how to enact it. The core is to be respectful and to be really open-minded about all the work that you're about to see because people are pouring their heart and soul into these awesome zines. So what is Cyberfest Rebooted? We're starting today and going through September 5th with readings, workshops, demos, and interviews with people involved in the zine and comics communities. And we also are launching a new thing this year of working with some local bookstores to sell zines from our 80 exhibitors at those participating bookstores. So you can visit our list of participating bookstores. It's on our website, I think. We'll definitely have that info for you so that you can go buy them all the month of September and get a little bit of that in-person Zine Fest feel, even though we're mostly in a virtual format for actually meeting the people. But you can go pick up their work and support them with money. This year's guest of honor is Tiny Splendor, and you will get to meet them up close and personal in another virtual event. So check our schedule on the website and our link tree. And here's some quick guidelines for Zoom, primarily for the participants today who are going to be sharing your work. So please keep your video off and keep yourself on mute until you're presenting. And then anyone who is presenting today can access the chat here in the Zoom webinar, and they're chat moderators, so you can get your questions.
Michael, it appears we can't hear you at the moment, but I'll continue this, I guess, until you come back. Artists will have 5 minutes.
The artist, as if you were in webinar yourself.
Okay. Oh, sorry, you were silent for a moment.
Oh.
Yeah, we lost you for a sec.
Okay, sorry about that. We were talking about the way to interact with the panelists today. So no matter where you're tuning in, whether it's on the live stream on Facebook or YouTube. If you ask a question or hype people up, it will get communicated back to the presenters themselves, and they really appreciate that support and those questions too. Definitely give a big thanks to our ASL interpretation today, provided by Neil Cordova and Hijira Hamid from Pro Bono ASL. And be mindful when you're presenting for anyone who is blind or visually impaired by being very specific and descriptive when sharing your work. So if you're holding it up, then make sure that we can see it clearly as possible, and go ahead and describe the images that we're seeing so that we can give a full audio experience as well as a video experience. And we are being recorded today, so just know that, and broadcasting to Facebook and YouTube. And let's be respectful of each other and have a good time. And again, go ahead and ask questions no matter where you're tuning in, and we'll make sure that those get addressed. So what should you say when you're presenting? Tell us your name and pronouns. Tell us if you're based in the Bay Area or wherever you are in the world, and a little bit about yourself. And then you'll have 4 minutes to show us your work or read something from your zines or comics. Or you can also show us the space that you work in, like your desk or something that inspires you from your environment. Today's exhibitors are listed here. We also have them listed with the slides that you're about to see over on Instagram. So go check those out if you want to know how to follow them and support them. And we're going to get started with Laneha House. Laneha House is based in San Francisco, California, founded in 2020, and features the work of Lawrence Lindell, Brina Nunez, and the Bailey's Magazine Comics Anthology. So we would love to introduce them today and let them tell you about their work. Lauren, are we ready for them to pop in? Hi, welcome.
Hi, y'all. Yeah, my name is Brina Nunez. I use she and they pronouns.
Lawrence Lindell, he, there.
And we're Laneha House. And here's a crudely drawn little mascot who's like a house guy. And yeah, we're a family-owned, husband and wife, spousely run press. We self-publish all of our comics together in magazine form. And yeah, we can just get to showing y'all what we've been doing the last couple of years together, starting with our first issue of Laneha House on I would say like a lavender cover. And the cover is drawn by Lawrence, and it's just like a portrait featuring our faces. And we can open this real quick. You want to talk a little bit about your work? Okay. So we have, again, just like alternating like titles. This one features Lawrence's work. It's dedicated to voguing old school way. And we can go to another page. And this is like a short comic that I made when I was in grad school called Dear Sentida. It's like a little rom-com between like an alligator person and a armadillo person. There are definitely some parallels between the characters and Lawrence and myself. And this is like a short story that takes place in Oakland. And yeah, and we have our latest issue that Lawrence beautifully laid out this year. And I did the cover. It's just us swinging on swings during the summertime. All of the stuff is in black and white as well. This is Lawrence's short comic called Smack Avenger.
You could see the originals at the Cartoon Art Museum until the 30th of this month.
Yeah. And for folks who don't know, Cartoon Art Museum is in San Francisco by Ghirardelli Square. And I also just like making short comics about our married life. This actually happened before we were married. Just something that I find to be silly, how Lawrence loves my scrambled eggs. And remind me the name of this comic. The Between House. And this is one of our earlier collaborations called One. So the prompt was really fun. So one side of the page, Lawrence starts like illustrating like a series of panels, and he leaves the other side blank for me to fill in. So it's up to the person's like interpretation, how they want to read the comic. And then this is called Speak Africanismos. This was a collection of illustrations from actually last year's Mes de Afrodescendencia. I'll translate that to the Afro-Salvadoran History Month for the month of August. And there was a hashtag created to draw attention to all these different words in Spanish that actually have roots in African languages, specifically, I believe, in West Africa. Still couldn't afford therapy. So I made this by Lawrence. You want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, it's just an autobio comic that takes place during the pandemic and talks about mental health issues. It's all drawn in black and white, ink and paper. And
yeah, so you can find out more about who we are at lanehahouse.com. And yeah, thanks for having us at SF Zine Fest.
Thank you so much for being here and being part of SF Zine Fest for so many years in a row. It's awesome to see your work grow. And I am going to start sharing my screen again. So just give me a sec in case it takes that time. Okay, so that again was Laneha House. Go visit them online and support their work. Next, we have Gerry Chow, who is an artist and comics creator by night and a nonprofit professional by day, and is from San Francisco, California.
Hello? Can you see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks, Michaela. Yeah, a little funny thing with my name. It's spelled like it should be Gerry, but it's Gary, but I'll answer to either. So thanks so much to Zine Fest for having me. As Michaela mentioned, I make comics and do figurative artwork as well by night and work in nonprofit by day. I made my first couple comics in 2018, these two right here. The first one is called Exclusion, and it's a short story centering around the Chinese Exclusion Act, and follows the story of one protagonist from about the 1860s through the early 20th century. It's kind of follows that history, but it uses contemporary visuals because I wanted to really kind of take it sort of a little bit out of history, using historical facts and kind of putting it into today's setting, just to kind of show the connection between what happened back in the past and how that kind of has through lines to what's happening today. So that's a short 6 to 8 page comic. The other one I did was a book called The Vanishing Monastery, and it's first chapter of a longer form kind of dystopian science fiction epic. It is set in a future San Francisco that's kind of very rundown, and it has elements of authoritarianism and media control, and it follows two protagonists who are kind of dealing with the world in which they live and kind of their political awakening. So that's the first chapter, and I'm working on the second one when I can. Next book I wanted to show is called The Inspection, and this one is actually going to be part of what's available through Zine Fest at a local comic shop, and it follows the story of kind of a futuristic dystopian, again, story of a visit by an inspector to a detention facility Not to give too much away, but the detention facility is a place where they hold people not because of anything they've done, but because of who they are. And there's some twists and turns through the story. This was actually a Zine Fest, an October project. So I was inspired by a fellow cartoonist, Roderick Constance, who had done a comic based off of the October prompts the year before. And I decided to try to do a comic where each panel takes one of the prompts from the October sort of list and tries to create a coherent story out of it. So that's going to be available through Zine Fest. So thanks so much. It's the next one. During COVID, during the lockdown last year, I did an 8-page sort of sequence or story. It's kind of more stream of consciousness, and it's called Meditations. It's some various thoughts and observations and just impressions of life during lockdown, sort of the uncertainty of 2020. This is an 8-page. Most of the drawings are sort of San Francisco Golden Gate Park. And so I put this 8-page story together, I submitted it, and it's actually part of this anthology called COVID Chronicles, which you should check out, not because of my work, but because there's so many great stories in here. So really appreciative of being able to be part of this. It's published by Graphic Mundi, which is an imprint of Penn State University Press. Yeah, so that's sort of what I've got. Working on a few other things. I'm working on a film noir comic, sort of inspired noir comic that has a contemporary twist. This is a collaboration with Violet Basso, who's also the model for the main character, kind of playing off of some of the tropes of noir, but in this character, kind of taking elements of the detective, the victim of crime and the femme fatale, and kind of taking that and setting it in a contemporary setting. I'm also, because I do a fair amount of figurative art, as you might see in the wall behind me, I'm currently trying to put together just a book of printing up some of the figurative work that I've done over the past. So that's about it. You can find me at my website, gchow.com. I'm on Instagram at gchow17. And I just want to say thanks so much to Zine Fest for having me. Really appreciate it.
I was muted. We're really happy to have you too. And I'm so sorry about your name, Gerry.
Oh, no worries.
So definitely go visit Gerry's work and support so that you get to hold one of the comics in your hands and take a look at the very detailed, beautiful drawings. A lot of compliments coming through in the chat over here. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Sharing my screen again so that you can get one last look at Gerry's work. And now we are going to move on to Murphy Milburn, who's also from San Francisco, California, or at least based there. We'll find out in a sec, and has a positive Black identity and an odd personality. Looking forward to seeing your work.
Okay. So let's see, is my camera turned on?
Yes, we can.
Okay, you guys can hear me. All right.
Yeah.
And can I share my screen?
Yes, I believe.
Actually, my host disabled the participant screen sharing.
Lauren?
You should be able to share now.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to, go straight to screen. Oops. Okay, so I'm Murphy. Usually I go by he and him. And I'm an artist based in San Francisco. And by day, I guess I also work at a nonprofit. I do a little bit of social work, social work that's, in India, that's known as, like, they call that big heart, little wallet, something like that. It's pretty bad, but no, I'm just joking. But yeah, I'm a social worker by day, artist by night, and a few other trades. And I make alternative mini comics here in San Francisco. And this is my website. I will post some of it in this in the chat when I'm done. And I also make illustrations. If anybody's interested in illustrations, I'll also take requests. And these are some of my other illustrations, which I have more of a theme on. I'm a big fan into like 1950s era sci-fi pinups, and I thought also combine that. And so just have a huge theme of that. But the real big one is my mini comics. And currently right now I submitted this one to be sold at local comic book stores. And this one is called Forgive. It's pretty much it's about a woman who inherits superpowers, but in exchange, she has to go through the process of understanding forgiveness in exchange for gaining those superpowers. So, and a lot of people have enjoyed that one. And to be honest, it's one of my favorite ones too. It's kind of a personal one too. Okay. And, oops. Let me see if I can get this screen out the way. But I have a few other superhero ones. This one called Allies. It's also based around similar superheroes. And this one is about a rich billionaire superhero who not only is learning about not just fighting for legal justice, but for social justice. And he's going through a process of learning how to be a ally for social justice. So I enjoyed that one also. And this one is also about a Black superhero that not only has a superhero identity, but goes through the process of identifying with his racial identity. So that one was pretty interesting too when I put that one together. And I have other ones things that I'm into, you know, I like horror. So I have some things on the supernatural, which has been kind of fun. And if some people have looked very closely and like, is that a weird version of when I did come out? Yeah, it's kind of a little bit of a mini Donald Trump, but you know, pick it up if you want to. You can buy it. It's a fun one. Like again, I'm like horror, supernatural, and I would say this one's probably my most recent one, The Emotional Vampire, and pretty much a little explanation about the emotional vampires in our lives and how they manifest. And I give a few tips at the end on how to deal with them. And I also like sci-fi, cyberpunk. But other than that, let's see. Pretty much that's about it. I will stop sharing my screen. Ooh, how do I stop doing that?
There should be a button up at the top.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
There you go. Thank you so much, Murphy. And I have one of your mini comics that I picked up at an event a few years ago, which is really cool. Great to see more of your work. Definitely go visit Murphy's work and pick up some of it to support. Back to sharing my screen. Oh, also, Murphy, if you have some of your work on social media, we would love to have the links for it. So feel free to drop those in the chat and we'll make sure that we get those shared. So again, here's Murphy's slides, which you can go visit on Instagram. And next we have Neil G Ballard, who is a former SF Zine Fest organizer, and we're so grateful to have him back as one of our exhibitors this year. Ready for you, Neil.
Thanks, Michaela. Well, I'm very glad to be back and in this capacity as a exhibitor, because it's been a couple years since I exhibited at Zine Fest. Last time I did, I can't remember, it was probably 2018, and then I joined the organizing team and helped with Cyberfest last year, so I know all of the work that goes into doing this event, specifically in this format online. And just want to start with just a huge thanks to Michaela and to Lauren behind the scenes, and Anand and Avi They're all amazing and just do incredible work. And yeah, if this was a live event, I would call for everyone to give them a round of applause. But since we're all at home, we can just applaud in our hearts for them. So I have been working on a lot of art this year that I would love to share with you all. A little background about me. My name is Neil G Ballard, and I use he, him pronouns. And I am based in the Ingleside neighborhood of San Francisco, which is near City College, if you're familiar with the city, kind of on the southmost part of the city. And I've been in this neighborhood, living and working here for well, since 2013. Can't do the math. And I just like a few other makers here that have shared today. I was formerly a nonprofit worker until just shortly before the pandemic, and now I've been making a living doing art projects and also being a server and bartender at a local restaurant. So I've been making comics about those experiences. I'd like to share one of those now. Oh, whoops, pulled up the wrong file. Just one moment here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to share another comic that's not so much about those experiences, but somewhat related. So this is it's a little 4-panel comic, black and white, that features me, a little autobiographical comic where I'm getting a haircut and I'm saying new look, new me in my head, shaved the beard, got a mustache. That was on July 1st, which was the last meeting of this Transportation Council, a citizens advisory group about transit in San Francisco, of which I was the chair of that council. And it was a whole lot of volunteer effort, something I love to do, but it was time to move on. So that comic kind of commemorated the moving on from that experience and onto my new projects and everything I was going to be involved with. I have been putting out those comics on Instagram. I also put out comics on email through my newsletter, which is accessible on my website, and I'll share that later. I also do a regular illustrated newsletter for the bar and restaurant that I work at, and I'm gonna show one of those there. So this comic details a delivery of rosé, a sparkling rosé that is also accompanied by a bunch of fantastical creatures coming through the door, kind of inspired by Fantasia, and by the little Fernet alligator, if you can see him. So that might be a copyright issue, but that's okay. I'll just take it down if they contact me about that. So I send those out every week. We have a list that just kind of promotes the restaurant in general. So that's a fun thing to do and keeps me creative and kind of connected to my job in my neighborhood as with kind of all of my projects. I have another.
That's your time.
Oh, that is my time. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I'm going to share my my links here, and thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, Michaela.
Great. Yeah, thanks for being back. Just posted some of your links, and you can go visit Neil's work at, it looks like, his website, and he's also on social media. Back to sharing my screen. So here's Neil before he shaved the beard. And then you got to see the big reveal of the new him. Next today, we have Jennifer Chavez, who is joining us from Chicago today.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, can you see me all right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Hi, I'm Jen. I'm from the south side of Chicago. I just graduated from Columbia College earlier this year. So fresh out of school. I have all of my zines over here. I also put all of the pages in like a PowerPoint that I'm going to share in in a sec, but I just wanted to hold them in front of the camera real quick. So I will do that. So yeah, these are some of the comics I've made. I graduated from college as an illustrator with an animation minor, but comics is really what I enjoy doing. A lot of my work is centered on mental health and being vulnerable with like kind of intense emotions. So these first ones are like longer comics I've made. This one specifically is about the sun and I made a character based off of the sun and the moon, and I made a whole comic about them. And then this one is adding on to that story with adding in some new characters. And then for zines, what we're all here for, these are some diary comics I've made that are in the 2 diary comic zines that I've made. They're just 4-panel comics that I combine at the end of the year. This is a zine about kind of like talking about mental health, but in the framework of not knowing how to swim, which I don't. This one is about religion and combining that with like growing up as an immigrant. This one is about like more mental health stuff with like figuring out how to help yourself feel better in times when everything kind of feels like it's spiraling out of control. This one was, I think, one of the first zines I ever made. Which is kind of funny because it's one of the more intense ones, which is about like impulses and when those turn into things maybe you should be worried about. This one is also, this is one of those like, the little small ones that you cut out of 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. So this one was really fun to make. And then this is the only Rizzo zine that I have. This is the last one I made in school when I still had access to that equipment. And then all of these things I sell them on Etsy or in local comic shops like Quimby's in Chicago. Or you can also find them on my website and all of my other illustrations at jenillustration.com. And you can just read everything on here for free. I think it's really fun to just have all of these things at least online for free to people to read, and then if they want to have it, they can order it or something. And then this is my Etsy. And then the zine I sent out to San Francisco to sell is the Impulses zine. I sent out 5 of those, I think. But yeah, that is my stuff.
Jen, thank you so much for being here. It's really cool to see your stuff. Definitely take a look at all those compliments over in the chat, and looking forward to seeing more of your work on your website.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks. So go visit Jennifer on Instagram and buy some of Jennifer's work. And next we have Tara Benhudjiriras, who is joining us from San Francisco. And you can visit on Instagram at Durian_Dreams. So here's a quick little sample of Tara's work while we're waiting.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you guys see me?
Yes.
No. Okay, cool. Hi, my name is Tara. I go by with she, her. This is my first Zine Fest, so I'm a little nervous and bear with me. I am Zooming from San Francisco. So I have a couple stuff that I want to talk about. This was my first. This is my first book that I did. This was during, I started this beginning of pandemic. It was originally supposed to be black and white. And I decided just to play with colors, and we went with colors because I think it looks better. It's based on folklore. I have a soft spot for folklore. So folklore, mostly, this one is based with like ocean and our relationships with the ocean. So, sorry, I'm a little nervous too. This one's about mermaids and the shark fin, the eagle shark fin. And so this one is about selkies, which is kind of neat because now I'm also volunteering at the Marine Mammal Center, so I get to see these live. They're very, very cute, but also quite big and can get aggressive. So this is my take on the Scottish tail. And then last on the story is Hair, which this was actually pretty fun to do. It was like a little bit of a collage. And this one is a tale of Sedna. It's an Inuit tale. This took quite a bit. I was only going to do the mermaid story, and then it just kind of went on from there, and I just kept on adding it, and then coloring took forever. I'm not the best with coloring. This is my second one, and this one I used the format, it was part of like the silent book contest, where it's all visual, and it has to span like both panels. So this is Some Days. I wanted to make this one about kind of like depression and how it can kind of just like consume you, but like there's still kind of a silver lining at the end. Sorry. Try to pick a good way to show. So this is actually pretty fun to do. And so I colored this digitally. This took quite a bit of time. This was really fun. I did this on a much bigger paper and kind of shrinked it down, but I got to play with all these like textures. So that's that one. And then we have skins. I'm a big fan of horror and like anything horror, movies, books. So I wanted to do my kind of like my own take on like my own lore on like not a skinwalker, but like she sheds her skin every year. So it has to do with a little bit like body horror image, which this was pretty fun to do. But yeah, that one's this one. And last is, I did this one for, okay, this one was for the zine. So this one's based on Chris Sue, and it's a Thai folklore too, but she's usually the villain. This one I want to make her more humanized, so she's not really the villain in this one, but kind of just trying to go on dates and getting kind of nowhere with it. But yeah, that's it.
That looks awesome. And you have made so much over the course of the pandemic, just starting at that time. So really, really good to see your work. Thank you so much for being here and
Thank
choosing
you.
us as your first Zine Fest. Hope to see you again. And here's another quick glimpse of some of those beautiful images from Tara. Apologize about your name too. And next we have Anne and Nguyen, who is also joining us from San Francisco and also a social worker. So we have some similar professions among you today. And I'm really excited to see all these beautiful, rich colors in Anna's work as well.
Hi, thank you for the introduction. Can you all hear and see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. My name is Anna Nguyen. I use she, her pronouns. And I am based in the Outer Mission neighborhood in San Francisco. And just a little bit about me, I am a child welfare social worker, as well as a research consultant with Yale, and a freelance artist. And I think it's a lot of my art comes as a result of these intersections that I have in my career and life. And I am going to share my screen now. Let's see. Okay. So I'm sharing a PDF of the zine that I made. I've never made a zine before, so if the format looks silly, it's that's why. I've never done this before. But I made a compilation of comics that I've been making for a while. And so this was an early comic that I made on the toll of loneliness, but I didn't really make very much after that. And it's like a very experimental one with like different shapes, and like I painted over it. I came back to comic making though in 2019, and I started publishing comics through the Mills College newspaper. And Mills College is in Oakland. And so I did a lot of these like black and white spreads for them on like vulnerability, what it means to be Asian American, wanting someone to just kind of know who you are and what you need, and reflections on body positivity, and on sexuality. And then I try to focus a lot on mental health because it's important in my personal and professional life. And so this one is called Trauma Lives in the Body, and I made it in 2020. But it's just a little depiction of me in therapy. And so I like to think about therapy as this kind of like a whirlwind tour of your mind and what you've been through. And so it's a little image of me crying. A lot of times I'm crying in my comics, just because it's where the emotions get channeled into. But my therapist is saying trauma lives in the body, and she's in the next panel, she's taking me by the hand and looking at this house where something has happened. And she's asking, how did it feel when that happened to you? And then the next panel, we're looking at this ship, and where she's just saying what happened was not your fault. And the next one is looking at a car, and she's saying, you're so brave and embracing me. And then it's me dipping, saying, thank you, see you next week. And so just each of the, the car and the ship and the house are all visual representations of something much larger that has happened in my life. And it was helpful to think about therapy in that way. And so after like making a ton of those kinds of comics, in 2020, 2021, I made an anti-bullying sticker that I'm trying to give to my old supervisor at San Francisco Unified School District for an anti-bullying campaign. But COVID really pushed me to start making comics about like racism. So I made some of these, like 4 panels, but I got really into 4-panel comics just because they're short and fun to do. So thinking about like, what does it feel like to fall in love for the first time? What does it feel like to think about things in the gray area instead of in a black and white way? I'm just gonna zoom into one of these and read it to y'all. This one is one I made on 5-year plans. So I made it during a work training at my day job. And so that's why I look so tired in these panels. But it says, I'm a big fan of 5-year plans. I like the intentionality of it all. It makes me happy to be able to accomplish what I set out to. And just, I have control over my life. And I really like that sense of autonomy and like knowing that I can do things that I'd like to.
These are beautiful. That is your time. So thank you so much for being here and sharing these with us.
Thank you.
So that was Anna. Very happy to have you. And definitely go visit Anna on Instagram, who you can find through ours. And next we have Iurhi Peña, who is joining us from Mexico City and likes to make zines and comics exploring the affections and living of women in Mexico City. very excited to see your work, and all this colorful work today is really cool. Are you here with us? All right, we are waiting for Iurhi, but in the meantime, we can keep looking at, oops, these slides. You can go visit Iurhi's work at instagram.com/IURHI. And Iurhi also has a link tree so that you can go find more of this colorful, very cool work. It sounds like Gerry won't be joining us today, so we will move on. And for that reason, please definitely go visit them online, support them by buying their work, and make sure that you get to learn about them on your own. Next, we have Christina Tran, who is joining us from Corvallis, Oregon, and is here with us. So I'll turn it over to you.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, everyone. I'm waiting to see if my image pops up. My name is Christina Tran. I use she, her pronouns. I'm joining from Corvallis, Oregon, which is unceded Kalapuya territory. I used to live in San Francisco, and San Francisco is actually where I went. It was my first Zine Fest I ever attended and the first Zine Fest I ever tabled at. So this is a very special place for me, and I'm really glad to be back today. I just want to show some of my zines. I make comics and essays about tender things like grief and loss and identity, and how to show up like as complex humans in a complex world. This is my newest zine called Ache, which I sent some to SF Zine Fest to put in the local bookstores. And it's from my letter writing project called Dear Beloved. So I thought I would, I guess before I do that, you can read a bunch of my comics and things online at sodelightful.com/comics. A bunch of stuff is there for free, or you can also have links to buy PDFs or zines. And I thought I would read an excerpt of Ache so you can get a sense of like the tone of my work. This is to my teenage self. Dear beloved, for the last few weeks, I have been sitting with these lines from Lucille Clifton's poem, Birthday. What we will become waits in us like an ache. Reworking those words, using them, expanding on them until we became you, until ache became constant companion. The pull inside of you aching to become. I think back to who I was back then. Young youth full of gray clouds, sensitive and soft, trying to be cooler and harder than I knew how. I journaled a lot and saved the notebooks in boxes, one after one. Periodically, I would reread the journals. I remember one constant thread that pulled me along as I wrote. The emotions were too much, the angst too gnawing. I wanted to be happy, but even more than happiness, I wanted contentment. I remember writing that word over and over in different contexts, almost like a prayer. Please, I would write, please just let me feel content for once, just content. Over the years, the word content morphed into ease. I knew I was doing good inner work, but one becomes tired and weary. Let me please just have a little bit of ease in my life, just ease, like an ache, aching to become. This was all years before these days, when I have been reframing my goals of abundance into a practice of plenitude, when content rests on a foundation of enough, and enough is more than enough. So maybe it was I writing to you in those journals back then, seeding the page with words like content to get you through your adolescence, those endless days, those achy nights, the sense that you weren't quite anything, that you weren't quite enough. You are years away from your true power. You are decades still from who you will become. At the same time, you are already her, the hermit crab in her first home, who will eventually grow into newer, bigger, differenter shells at each stage of life. The tree which has always already existed inside each acorn seed, the potential eggs nested inside your mother's eggs, emerging through growth, becoming over time, leaning into your potential you. Some days during meditation, when I am still enough, I feel a wise soul with kind eyes emanating from the center of my gravity, grounded, centered, calming, steady. I know she is divine, but I'm not yet ready to accept the truth of who she really is, not quite yet, like a prayer, still enough. I am years away from my true power. I am decades away from who I will become. It is really she who is writing to both of us. Reminders to be here now, and don't forget to breathe. Who you will become waits inside of you like an ache. Today you are possible, today you are you. In my here and now, I feel content. In my here and now, I feel full. I am leaning into joy. I am feeling into love. I didn't know joy could fuel love. I didn't know joy could become constant companion. So maybe it is you, beloved, who is writing to me in my journal today, one by one, over and over. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank
Go
you
to
so much for
sodelightful.com.
Very cool. Someone's asking if you have an Instagram presence or any other social media. We have shared a couple of your links, but go ahead and share any more that you'd like us to be able to put out there over in the chat. Thank you so much
Absolutely.
for being
Thanks.
here. So Christina was our last presenter for the day. We have more events coming up through next Sunday. So the other events this weekend after today's show and tell A, at 1 p.m. we have a really cool talk between a couple of queer comics historians, and that's also online. And then we have a virtual screen printing with paper stencils demo with Yael Levy at 3, which means that you don't have to have all the equipment for screen printing. You can do it without all the stuff, a lot cheaper. And then tomorrow we have additional events. Please go visit our full schedule so that you can see it all on sfzinefest.org or on our link tree, which is linked in our Instagram bio. And thank you so much to our interpreters from Pro Bono ASL. Really appreciate you being here to make this event accessible for more people. And San Francisco Zine Fest, we're an all volunteer organization. I'm Michaela Payne. I'm one of the organizers for the last 4 years. And we are supported by our membership with Intersection for the Arts, which is a Bedrock Bay Area arts nonprofit that provides people working in arts and culture with physical sponsorship and resources to grow. So check them out. We definitely owe a lot to them for helping us become and maintain our status as a nonprofit. And I also want to invite everybody, all the exhibitors today, to join us over on Discord. I'll drop the link right here. And that's where you can meet the other zinesters and share more of your work with people in the community. So thank you so much for all being here. Definitely tune into the other events and hit us up anywhere. You can send us Instagram DMs if you have additional questions or want some more of these links, or just want to give compliments that we can pass on to the exhibitors today.